he's been skeptical about investing because of the time and a lot of things that have happened. And that today's meeting will help him or her make informed decisions whether they need to get themselves involved in the cryptocurrency market. And the same thing applies to me. I'm out to understand. I don't really understand the world of cryptocurrency. So today's meeting is going to shed more light and help me to make the decisions, because as if cryptocurrency is the future, like we say, then I should be part of it. I should be part of it, but I need more understanding. That's it. So I'm now just did a short intro of myself. My name is Nicole George, and I'm a data analyst. Currently, I run a small community, mentor small young businesses, startups by teenage and young people. We try to provide them the platform to create jobs for themselves, because unemployment is a great issue here in Nigeria. So what we try to do is help them create jobs based on the skill sets they acquire. And that's why I'm so committed to helping them how the gig economy works, so that they don't say, okay, I have skills in cybersecurity and or in cloud technology, and in Nigeria, a lot of companies are not yet migrated to the cloud. But we're trying to make them understand that yes, if you have skills in cloud, there are opportunities out there in other parts of the country that you could get yourself engaged even while you're still in Nigeria. So basically, that's what I do. I'm a certified data analyst with Google. That's what I do. Thank you for coming on the platform. So can we pass the ball? Still have about 2 more minutes. Can we quickly pass the ball to?
No, we don't. We can go ahead and get started. Hey, it's 3:11.
Fine.
So we don't have any more time. We're gonna go ahead and introduce Trey.
Okay. Welcome everybody. Welcome. Good evening, especially for those of us who are joining the platform for the very first time. Before now, I think I took time to explain, give Trey an overview of what we do with the Future of Jobs African Network. Basically, today is one of the webinar series, and at the webinar series, we do bring in expert opinions or expert perspective into some of the topics that are trending, are currently changing the dynamics of our world. And today we want to look at blockchain and cryptocurrency. And we're so glad to bring you somebody who is an expert in the field. In fact, I was shocked when I saw his profile that he has a master's degree in cryptocurrency. I never knew such a degree existed in the first place. So it gladdens my heart that this is somebody who is quite knowledgeable as far as the subject matter is concerned. And I am very, very sure that today is going to help us and the entire world of cryptocurrency and help us make informed decisions whether we need to be part of it before it's too late, or we just need to stay away and stop something like that. So Trey, I just want to say thank you for coming, and I want to pass the ball to you. So you can go ahead and do more introduction. Let us get to know you a little bit more and go ahead with the presentation. Thank you for finding time to be on the platform.
Fantastic, and thank you so much for having me here. It's truly an honor, and it's been something that I've been looking forward to all week. So as far as what I'd love to go over for the next maybe 20 to 30 minutes or so is a few things. So first, I want to share a little bit about myself and how I got into blockchain and cryptocurrency in the first place, because as you all kind of have seen with your interactions with the technology, it's kind of just like very unknown. And so I want to talk a little bit about my path here and why I'm so passionate about the technology. Then we're going to talk a little bit about kind of just understanding why this technology is so needed by discussing some of the reasons that are or the issues that there are with the current financial system. And I'm getting just a little bit of echo. Would you guys mind going on mute if you're not talking?
Okay.
I think that I might just be hearing myself a little bit. But anyway, so we'll talk a little bit about the current financial system, and then we'll talk about cryptocurrency. And when we get to that section, I think the biggest thing to kind of take away is you don't have to be an expert about all of the technical details about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, but what's really important is how it's going to impact you. So that's really what we're going to focus on. Towards the end of our conversation, we're going to talk about cryptocurrency as an investment, just to share a little bit about kind of how a lot of people have made a tremendous amount of wealth by buying and trading cryptocurrency. We'll finish off today's conversation by talking about the career and educational opportunities here within the blockchain industry so that you guys can know as far as how this can progress your life and really help you build a better future for yourselves and your family. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and just jump into a quick intro here about myself. So here's just a few things here about me. So I live here in San Francisco, California, in the United States, and I love doing anything kind of thrill seeking. So you can see me here riding the ATVs. You can see us there swimming with dolphins, skydiving, you name it. I love anything that is related to that, just kind of a good thrill. As far as how I got into blockchain, it was actually kind of a crazy story because when I was a little bit younger, at this point, probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I was at my last day at university and I walked off the bus. And as I did, bam, I got hit by a car just like that. And after that moment, thankfully, I walked away and you can see I'm here and I'm perfectly fine. But what did change for my life permanently after that was just how I viewed the world and my priorities. After that, it really kind of just struck me about how short life truly is. And I knew that if I wanted to go and to make something of myself, I needed to do it quickly. And I needed to make sure that I was really making the most out of the time that I had. So I had a lot of passion for making something of myself, but I didn't really know what to do with it. But that really changed for me after I came across blockchain and digital currency. I'll never forget the first time I read about the technology in a book, and they talked about some of the things that we'll talk about here in just a moment, as far as how it makes sending money so easy and how it makes trusting people that you've never met and never interacted with possible through blockchain technology. And as that kind of struck me, I was like, wow, this really has the opportunity to be as game changing as the internet itself. So how can I be a part of it? So that's when I started doing research and found that master's degree in UCO. As you mentioned, I had never heard of a master's degree either in blockchain and digital currency. And I was like, wow, like, is this real? But after doing some research, it was actually with a very large university over in the Mediterranean. And I ended up applying to it, got accepted. And we'll talk a little bit about the master's program here later on. But that was really an opportunity that has changed my life. So after I finished that master's degree program, I moved and I started working for Coinbase. And if you've never heard of Coinbase, we are one of the largest cryptocurrency companies here in the world. And our mission is to make it as easy, secure, and honestly just fun to buy cryptocurrency. We try to be the most trusted and the most safe place to do so. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm really excited to get to know you all a little bit better here throughout this next time. So now I want to talk a little bit about kind of what got us here as far as needing cryptocurrency in the first place. So as I'm sure that many of you all can attest to, the current financial system is far from perfect. If you think even about just like sending money transfers either to someone who is in your own country or especially overseas, you'll find that there's many different issues that cause it to be less than ideal. So for example, it can be very expensive. It can be very time consuming, both with all of the different steps that you have to take to send the money, the forms that you have to fill out, the amount of time that it actually takes for the money to get to where you're going. And it's very difficult to do globally. So if I were to go and to try to send money to one of you all in Nigeria or in any other country that you are, that would likely take us a long time to have to figure out. And when you think about it, this is 2020. We figured out so many things. We've sent people to the moon. We're now sending people to outer space. We have the internet. It makes sense for us to have money that is advanced and allows us to kind of keep up as a society. So that's where cryptocurrency comes in. If I had to leave you kind of with one kind of general sentiment or thought here about cryptocurrency, it would be that cryptocurrency is just about sending money as fast and as easy as sending an email. So when you think about sending an email, do you ever think about like what happens behind the scenes or like any of the other details? No, it just works. And so in a similar way, that's what we're trying to build with companies like the one that I work at, to make it so that you can send money to anywhere, to anyone in the world, as easy as you would just sending an email. So now I just want to take a step to pause, because I know that with a lot of people, even including myself when I first getting started, I heard about cryptocurrency and they talked about like the blockchain and they talked about like the distributed ledger and all cryptography and all these kind of technical concepts. And I was just like, whoa, this is way too much. And so what I want to say to you all here is, first, there's no such thing as a dumb question. If there was, I promise I've already asked it, so you don't have to worry about it. And two, it's not necessarily important to know as far as like behind the scenes how Bitcoin works and the network and everything like that, because in a similar way to, do you all know how the internet works and how the internet is causing for us to be able to have this video conversation even though we're not in other countries? Probably not. I know I definitely don't have all the details about how the internet works, but it just works for us. So as we're going throughout this conversation, don't get focused too much on like the technical details about how blockchain works, and instead just focus on the value that I'm describing that it can have here for your lives. And if you're interested in the technical details, I'm happy to talk about that here at a different time. So understanding the fact that we're gonna keep it here at a high level, here's are a few simple definitions that I really want to lock in. So first, blockchain. I know you've heard this word a ton. So the biggest thing to know about blockchain is that it is a technology which allows people who don't know or don't trust each other to digitally send or store information and value. That's it. That's all you need to know as far as kind of what the goal is. It's just made for a way to be able to send and store information or value. So that information could be something like money, like with Bitcoin, or it could be something like a vote. So there are different systems where you can vote using blockchain technology instead of like a paper ballot and so on. And we'll get into some other use cases later. As far as what cryptocurrencies are money that is on the blockchain. So it's a new form of money which allows for users to send money without the need for a third party. And I think that we're getting just a little bit of kind of feedback. If you don't mind just going on mute. Thank you. So as far as cryptocurrencies go, it allows you to send money without needing a third party. So that means that your bank doesn't have to be involved. Western Union doesn't have to be involved, any of these kind of third parties. And so that allows for a lot of really cool benefits that we'll touch on. Next up is stable coins. So stable coins are really something interesting. So I know that many of you have probably heard a lot about Bitcoin and how volatile it is and how the price has gone up and down and everything like that. And that may have kind of turned you off to Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies. So if that's you, I have some good news in that there's a new type of cryptocurrency named a stable coin. And so when you're thinking about a stable coin, all that it is it gives you all the value of cryptocurrencies, which we'll touch on the next slide, but with none of the volatility. Essentially what we've done is we put traditional currencies like the US dollar and any other country's currency and just digitized it so that now you can send it globally and it's inexpensive and you have all the other benefits of the blockchain technology. Last but not least, I couldn't have a blockchain 101 slide without mentioning Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the first widely accepted cryptocurrency and currently the most popular. So it's a little there. So I do want to pause here just because I'd love for this to be interactive. Do you all have any questions or anything that can touch back on before I keep going?
Yeah, on my part, I'm just intrigued with the fact with getting to hear about stable coins for the very first time, and I find that very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. Not a question, just a comment. I find that very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's so cool. So imagine like with the stable coin, like there's one named USDC or US dollar coin where I could, and we can honestly do this after the call if you're interested, where I could send you $10 of this US dollar coin and it would get there in approximately 4 or 5 minutes and it would cost me probably 10 cents. And so when you think about that, that's so different than the traditional financial system. There's no way I could send you money like through Western Union or anything else like that at such a low cost and it goes so quickly. And like it's a US dollar. So you know that $1 is equal to one of these digital US dollars as well.
Well, the banks are in trouble.
Yep. We're coming for them. We definitely are. Cool. So that's that. And so now I want to go into some of the benefits of cryptocurrencies. So first and foremost, they're incredibly fast. So there's many different cryptocurrencies and they each have different kind of benefits that they try to offer. But for most cryptocurrencies, they offer nearly instant payments. And so when I say instant, I'm thinking 10 seconds or less. So that means that in the time that it takes me to finish even this part of the slide, the money would have already gotten to you anywhere in the globe. So that's amazing. So next, they're inexpensive. So for these payment focused cryptocurrencies, the transaction fees are typically like around 10 cents or less per transaction. So compare that to the fees that you would get here for Western Union or anything else. I looked up how much it would cost me to send money using Western Union to Nigeria, and it said it would cost me $14, and it would take 4 days for me to send $1,000 to someone over in Nigeria, or I could pay $42 and it could get there that within a couple of minutes. And so when I saw that, I was like, wow, we can do so much better using cryptocurrencies. Like we can do it so much faster and at a fraction of the cost. And so that's really what's coming. Next is direct. And so I don't have bad feelings against Western Union, but I think that they're a good example. So this using cryptocurrency, you can make the payments just directly from one person to another. So you don't even have to have that separate company that you have to go into the physical office or onto their website to facilitate that transfer. You just need to know they're sending information. Last but not least, and I feel like this part is especially important, they're global. So in a similar way to you all could send me an email, even though we're in different countries, using cryptocurrency, we can send each other money, even though we're not in the same place. Cryptocurrency from that standpoint, it doesn't matter where the sender and the receiver are, they can be anywhere, as long as they have either an internet or even just a satellite connection. So now that we've gone into a couple of the benefits of cryptocurrencies, I want to touch on some of just interesting use cases for the technology and things that you can do with it. So one interesting part about cryptocurrencies is that you can do something called microtransactions. Essentially, like instead of having just like one large transaction, you can split it into just like little fractional amounts. And so to give you a good example of how you can do this is, so imagine that you're in a job, and I know that most jobs, including mine, I get paid twice a month. What if instead of getting paid twice a month, I got paid every hour or every minute or even every second? The cool thing about cryptocurrencies is that since the transaction fees are so low, you can actually set it up so you can do something that is called payment streaming. So your money will just kind of stream in over time, opposed to just coming in just like large lumps. The benefit to you for that is that your bills come in across the month. And so when you think about it, wouldn't it be so much more helpful if your money came in across the month opposed to just like in these large lump sums? That would help you to be able to buy more things and just not worry so much about if you're going to have enough money left over. The next kind of interesting thing is for voting. I know that here in the United States, we're about to have an election. And one thing that has been top of mind for a lot of people is about if their votes are actually going to be counted and if votes are actually going to be valid. And I know this is something that is sort of like fraud or corruption is something that a lot of countries deal with. And the cool thing about blockchain is that you're able to see on the blockchain exactly all the transactions that take place. And so when you're thinking about voting, you can make it so that people can vote using blockchain technology and nobody will know who voted, who the voters are. So it's anonymous, but you'll be able to see that the votes took place. So that way, like one of the parties can't say, oh, we got 100,000 votes, when in reality, they only got 10,000. You can instead be able to see on the network exactly how many votes took place. So that's a really big one. Next, kind of keeping with the government theme, is just government and transparency. So I know that one thing that a lot of people struggle with is paying taxes or just like not knowing how their government is spending their money, and there just being corruption there. So with blockchain technology, as I mentioned, you have the ability to see where all the transactions are going. And so you can set it up so that all the money that the government receives, you can see exactly how they spend it. So imagine if you were able to see like, oh, like Well, my politician is spending a lot of money on roads. Well, that's great. We like to see that. But if instead you see that they are spending money on things such as personal expenses or first class tickets on airplanes or whatever it is, then you can say, maybe this isn't a politician I want to support anymore. And that's somebody that you can vote out next time. So it adds in that transparency. The last thing, and this is probably one that you all are probably the most familiar with, is just cryptocurrency trading. And so there's a lot of people who, in a similar way to how you can trade stocks, bonds, and just gold, any other asset, you can trade cryptocurrency. And so for right now, that this is honestly the main use case as far as what people do with cryptocurrency and how they're using it. And so that's a good segue into what I want to talk to you about next, which is cryptocurrencies' potential as investments. So for this next part, we're going to talk specifically about Bitcoin, just since that's the most popular. So this is a chart just showing about how the price of Bitcoin has ranged over time. So I really want you all to look over here on the left-hand side. You can see that in 2014, the price was super low, below $5,000, even like $2,000. And you can see how it's gone up and down over time. But what I think would be a really interesting thing for us to think through is I want you all to kind of think about this scenario. Think about if you had $10 back in the year 2011, this exact day back in 2011. So let's say that you had that $10 and you used it to buy Bitcoin. So back in 2011, your $10 would buy you 125 Bitcoin. If you held that Bitcoin and you still had it in 2015, again, on the same day back 5 years ago, then the price of Bitcoin at that time had changed from being 8 cents per Bitcoin when you first bought it to now $237 per Bitcoin. So what that means is that the 125 Bitcoin that you bought just 4 years ago would now be worth $29,625. So let's flash forward again to 2017. Let's say that you had kept your Bitcoin that you had bought with that $10 back in 2011. Well, now the price of one Bitcoin is $4,424, again, on the same day just 3 years ago. So at that time, your Bitcoin that you had bought just for $10 in 2011 would now be worth $553,000. And this last one is where it gets really crazy. So let's say that today you still had that Bitcoin that you bought for $10 back in 2011, which is under 10 years ago. Well, one Bitcoin today is equal to $10,000 around. So your 125 Bitcoin would be worth $1.3 million. And so I know that, Uko, I see you shaking your head. I'm shaking my head because I don't know about y'all, but I wasn't buying Bitcoin back in 2011. So I don't have 125 Bitcoin here. But what I can say is that Bitcoin has still only been around for only about 10 years. And so if this is how the price has changed over 10 years, the technology is not going away. And so imagine what this chart would look like if we spread it out across 20 more years or 30 years, 50 years, whatever the case. And so that's why I feel like it's so important for you all to know as far as the benefits of blockchain technology and the investment potential, because there are a lot of people that are making a tremendous amount of wealth in this. Like this is just $10 if you would have spent. So it's absolutely incredible. So that's one, I feel like one kind of important, if you take nothing away, I want for you to remember this slide. And so I hope that encourages you to think more about the technology. So what I want to go into next, just kind of as we're wrapping up before we open it up to Q&A, to questions, is I want to talk about, in kind of just coinciding with the future of work theme, how you can get a career in blockchain and how you can educate yourself as well. I think that this is really important because there's two ways really to get Bitcoin. You can either buy it or you can earn it. So for me, like working at Coinbase, I actually get a portion of my salary every month just paid in Bitcoin. And with the hope that one day I'll be able to show a chart like this and be able to see good results. And I really would love that to be y'all's future as well. So as far as some blockchain careers, the biggest thing that I want for you all to learn about, to take away from this, is that yes, blockchain and cryptocurrency, it's an emerging technology. It's very cool and new. But the great news is that you don't have to be a developer. You don't have to be a technical person in order to take part in this industry and really kind of get started. I'm not technical myself. And so that's something that I feel like isn't said enough as far as there's so many different types of careers here that are available. And so I just want to go over a few. So first, project managers. So that's what I do myself. And so what we do is we help to make sure that projects continue to move forward in different initiatives. And it's really all about communication, making sure that everyone is all aligned on the same page and encouraged and incentivized to move forward with whatever we're trying to build. Next, writers. So I know that a lot of people, they have some fantastic writing skills, and they can write all sorts of things from blogs and articles. You could also write help center articles, FAQ pages, and even like the content that you see just within different products. So there's a huge need for writers there. Next, designers. So if you have an eye for design or art and you feel passionate about that, there's a ton of opportunity right now here in the blockchain industry. Next up, developers. So with any tech company, of course, like we need software engineers, developers who can actually use their coding skills to come and build the future. The next thing that I want to highlight, and I feel like this is a really good one, is for people who are big into data. And so if you are really passionate about finding trends using Excel or SQL or other database technologies, there's a ton of opportunity for you to use your skills in order to help identify trends, area of opportunities, and issues. This last one I wanted to highlight because I know that you all have a focus as far as kind of the gig economy as well. And so support analysts. And this is actually people that I work with on a daily basis, supporting our customers and helping resolve their questions and issues. This can be a great way to get started within the industry. It's often a role where you don't have to have a lot of previous experience, and they're really just looking for people who care a lot about their customers and making sure that they have an excellent experience. And Niles, we also, of course, have cybersecurity analysts. We have a huge security team. We have hundreds of people who work at Coinbase in that area. So that is another great area of opportunity. So the biggest kind of takeaway from this is that if you're interested in blockchain, or even just taking part of a very high potential industry, then this is a great place here for you. Because one of the benefits of being in an industry that is so new is that really there's not a lot of people that are experts yet. Even at a company where I work, I think that you all are kind in calling me an expert, but I wouldn't even describe myself that way, in that I'm still learning. Everyone here is still learning. And so if you have an appetite to kind of better yourself and learn about the technology and make a difference, then I guarantee you that there's a place for you. So what I want to wrap this up with doing before we open up to question and answer is to talk a little bit about the master's program that I participated in. And one of the big reasons why I want to talk about it is because it is truly an opportunity to get ahead as far as if you're really passionate about getting into this industry. So a couple of kind of things just to tell you about the credibility of this university. So first, it is the only university in the world currently to have an accredited master's degree program devoted specifically to blockchain and digital currency. So we're number one in the world for it for right now. We were also the first university in the world to offer even just an accredited blockchain course. We also post all of our diplomas onto the blockchain. So that's kind of cool because now we were talking about like how blockchain is used so that people can use to store information and do it so securely. Well, now any of my future employers, my friends, even you all, I can send you the link where you can go and you can verify my degree on the blockchain. And so that's a really cool thing. We also accept Bitcoin for tuition. So I paid for my entire master's degree using Bitcoin as well. One of the big reasons why I think that it was important to talk about this degree to this group is this is a global program. So while I'm based here in the United States, this program actually isn't. And so if you look, they're actually located, as I mentioned, in the Mediterranean in a country named Cyprus, which actually is closer to you all there in Africa than it is to me in North America. And so as a result, a lot of my colleagues were actually in countries that I expect that many of you probably are as well, whether it be Nigeria, South Africa, and so on. Most people from the program actually were not in the United States. And so I think that that's important to know because the blockchain technology is not something that's United States specific at all. And there's truly a ton of opportunity for you, regardless of where you live. So a couple of things as far as why I recommend this degree so highly and what it helped me to do. So first, it really helped me to focus my studies on practical knowledge. What the goal of the program was is that I would be able to leave that program and immediately start adding value at a blockchain or cryptocurrency company. And that's exactly what I did. As soon as I graduated, I was able to get this job. Next, honestly, it gave me a lot of confidence. I know that the imposter syndrome, as they call it, is a well-known thing as far as people, especially people of color, feeling like they don't belong in tech. And I feel like one thing that this master's program allowed me to do is to truly just have a lot of confidence as far as my abilities and just knowing that I have this degree that only as of right now, less than 300 people in the world have. Last but not least is global networking. And so you get a lot of access to well-known people in the field, alumni in the cryptocurrency industry, and just industry experts. There's a lot of people who go and they create their own cryptocurrency and they are very tight with our alumni network. And we had the opportunity to interact with them. So it's a very interesting opportunity. So as far as what you learn in a program like this, so it starts off by teaching you about Finance 1.0, which I feel like is so important. So similar to how today we started off by talking a little bit about some of the issues with the current financial system. That's how the program starts as well. And this was really eye-opening to me as far as learning about like, hey, like how did money get started? Like where did all this come from? Why do we value money so strongly? And how do we get to a situation, and also like how do we get to a situation where the United States, the US dollar is just used so prevalently around the world? And so we talked about things like that. We also, of course, talked many things about blockchain, actually technology. And so this is where we talked about some of the more technical aspects of the technology as well. I think that what I enjoyed the most out of the course was when we talked about disruptive innovation. So we talked a lot about things like, okay, so we have this potentially world-changing technology. It has all these cool benefits. How do you actually turn that cool technology into actual value for people? How do you turn these things into businesses that can go and to change people's lives and so on? And so we had several courses where my peers who are across the globe, I even had some that were in my group that lived in Africa, and we built out business plans for how this technology could be used, and it was absolutely phenomenal. The last part of the course or of the program, this part really wasn't necessarily my favorite, but we talked a lot about trading and investment. So if you kind of got wide-eyed when I showed that slide about how to make a lot of money off of cryptocurrency, this part would be for you because it talks all about how you can trade and buy and sell cryptocurrency to make money. So that was that. The last slide I believe that we have here about the program is scholarships. So for me, as I mentioned, I don't have 125 Bitcoin, so I didn't have just a whole lot of money to go and get this whole master's degree program by myself. But they do have a ton of scholarships, especially for people of color who are looking to get into this field. And so I've listed a couple of them here, and then you can see them all on the website as well. So that rounds out what I wanted to talk through for today's conversation. And so what I'd love to use the remaining maybe 10, 15 minutes here to do is to talk about anything that is on you all's mind. As I mentioned, I'm really an open book as far as anything related to the technology. And so if you have any questions about anything, please let me know. I think that it's a great time. Sorry, I think you're on mute.
Okay, I'll go first. Wow, Trey, that's so awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that knowledge with us. I'll tell you the first thing that blew my mind was the government transparency.
Yep.
I can tell you that a lot of people in this room care about knowing how the governmental agencies, politicians are using their either if they're in Nigeria, the Nigerian naira, and for us in America or anywhere you are, you care about how the government is utilizing the money that we pay as taxes. And so I want to just ask you, like, from my perspective, I can see the resistance from the governmental agencies saying, hey, we don't want this.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, at Coinbase, have you guys seen any implementation that yet around the world, or have you started having conversations around that? And what is the feedback you guys are getting from agencies around that idea?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I think that you're spot on. I think that the existing people in government, they have a vested interest in not having transparency, you know, because like we know what they're up to. But I think that they're eventually the people are just going to demand it. And I think that there will be politicians who will be open to transparency and who will create it. As far as conversations that we've had here in the United States, we're definitely not the leader when it comes down to blockchain technology. But the country that is China. So China is going and they are about to create a digital version of their currency, and they are going to have that available for both government agencies as well as for citizens. And so they're the country, honestly, that's the leader for it. And I think that they're doing some phenomenal work. And so I think that once China has it, then that is going to really start a similar to like when the Russians started their space program that made the United States want to do it. I think that as the Chinese start up their digital currency program, that is going to make other countries, including the United States, to really want to go faster as well. So I think change is coming quickly.
Okay, okay, Trey, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. I mean, I've been seriously serious. But my question is because when I looked at your chart, you showed how the progression, as how much value cryptocurrency or Bitcoin specifically has gathered in the last 10 years, and it
Mm-hmm.
blew me off. My question is what drives the value of crypto? Because you could create it's digital, you could create it. So what really drives, how come the value has moved so fast within a short period of time? What drives the value of cryptocurrency,
That is
of
a
Bitcoin?
wonderful question. Absolutely wonderful question. And the biggest, what I would say, and there's a lot of different thoughts, is that the value of any sort of asset, and especially of money, is just purely based off of what people are willing to pay for it. And so with Bitcoin, it's the ultimate example of just supply and demand. So the price of Bitcoin is just based off of what people across the world and using companies like Coinbase, where I work, are willing to buy it at. And so that's the reason why it changes. So the reason why I think that it changes so much is because at the beginning, so let's say in 2011, you could buy Bitcoin, but you couldn't really use it to do anything. Like you couldn't use Bitcoin to go and to buy a pizza or to pay for your master's degree, or like I paid for my wedding ring with Bitcoin. And so you couldn't do those things in 2011. But as the years went, more and more places started to adopt the cryptocurrency. More people started to store their wealth in it. And overall, it just became more widely accepted. And so that's the number one thing that causes the price to go up. So for example, in 2017, which is when one Bitcoin it got up to almost $20,000, one of the reasons for that, in my opinion, is that there was just people all across the world who started hearing about Bitcoin and wanted to buy it. And since there is only a limited amount of Bitcoin available, as more people want it, so as that demand increases and the supply is still down, the price goes up. And so that is the my personal and professional opinion about why the price is so volatile. And I think that what's been interesting is that, or what will be interesting is that as the years go and Bitcoin becomes more adopted, I think that we're actually going to see that volatility go down. And so I think that that's really why this is a great time to start investing now, because as more people get into it and as it just becomes well known, I think that people like the value won't change as much and it'll just be more stable. And I think it's going to be stable at a very high price. But any price discussions are definitely, it's hard to say. It's a roll of the dice for sure.
Wow. Now, I don't know if there's anybody who wants to ask a question. I'm also another part of your presentation that got me wow was the fact that you said blockchain could be used in design. Why this particularly is I find this interesting is because I have young people with me who are into creative designs, and I'm trying to wonder how does blockchain apply. I have those who are into video production. I have those
Yep.
who are fashion designers, and some of them are in the
Yep.
room right now. So I'm wondering, could you just drill down a little bit on the application part of how blockchain can be applied to designs?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So I feel like it really comes down to the career opportunities there. So when you're thinking about like any sort of website or application, how it looks is super important. Like that's something that draws in the people. Like if it's something that looks good and it's something that's easy to use, then more people will do it. And so like one issue that the industry is having right now is we don't have a lot of designers. And so there's not a lot of people who are focused just on making sure that all of these sort of products just look great. And I think that so that's one place. And then next you mentioned that you have some people that are into video production. Well, who, as the technology is getting more adopted and there's more companies and products, who's creating the commercials to advertise those products? Who's creating like the videos that you have on the website describing how to use the products? Right now, no one. Like we don't have a lot of people in the industry who that's what they do. So those are exactly the kind of people we need. And the last thing you mentioned about like fashion design and t-shirts. Well, look at my t-shirt right now. So my t-shirt right now says Satoshi is black, and Satoshi is the creator of Bitcoin. And so who is creating t-shirts like this? Who is taking this from just being like a technology to being like a whole movement, including like fashion and clothes and everything like that?
Wow. I hope ID is in the house. Steve is in the house. Steve is into web design. ID is into video production, and Yvonne is a fashion designer. So I just wanted you to give them a couple of ideas. I'm sure they already grabbing from what you said, because I was wondering, how do you apply? How does the designer have a place as far as blockchain is concerned? So I'm sure that was pretty useful. Thank you very much. So,
Yep.
guys, the floor is now open. You can go ahead and ask your question. Whatever question comes to mind. Remember, like Trey, there's questions, so pops into your
You're breaking up, Uko. You're breaking up. Uko is breaking up real bad. So while he's we're gonna wait for his audio to come back up. I'll go ahead and say, does anyone else have a question in the room that you want to ask Mr. Trey? You can unmute yourself.
Trey.
Yeah.
Hey, good evening. Good presentation.
Thanks. Great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you
You
too.
know that guy?
I do.
What is your thoughts on Bitcoin's longevity being given the vulnerabilities that it has? And then what is your thoughts on a lot of these other altcoins that are coming out? Do you think Bitcoin is still gonna be that reigning king, or do you think it kind of on its dying end, so to speak?
Yeah, so I think that two things. So first, Bitcoin, there are a lot of for everyone here in the room, so there is Bitcoin, which is the most kind of common cryptocurrency, but there are actually thousands of other cryptocurrencies that are commonly referred to as altcoins or alternative coins, like alternative to Bitcoin. So as far as those go, those altcoins typically have other things that they are trying to achieve, whether it be a really fast payment cryptocurrency or a cryptocurrency focused on voting or a cryptocurrency based on a whole number of other things. So whereas Bitcoin, the number one kind of thing that Bitcoin is trying to do is it is trying to be a sustainable and just sound type of digital money. The goal of Bitcoin is to be digital gold or digital cash, and something that just throughout the years is something that people can reliably store their wealth in. And so that's something that to answer your question more directly, I have absolutely no doubt as far as the longevity of Bitcoin. Even with all the other cryptocurrencies that are coming out, they're doing some really interesting things. But I think that they are trying to achieve something different than what Bitcoin specifically is. And so that's the reason why Bitcoin, like, it doesn't always have like the most brand new features or the latest grade, I guess, cutting edge blockchain technology. But what it does have is it is the most secure, it's the most trusted, and it's the one that the most kind of developer attention goes to as far as ensuring that it stands the test of time. And so that's why I feel like it will continue to be sound money throughout time, or similar to gold. Whereas other currencies, they may have more use as far as just like payments and voting and just other applications. So I hope that answered your question a little bit.
Yeah, it does. And then, because I know that there's, for instance, with your like security key, if you lose that or that's hacked, then you pretty much have no way of recovering, or it's very challenging to recover those coins. And I know that there are new technology where they're coming out with like second keys, where you the sender will have two keys and the receiver will have one, and that way if you accidentally send your keys mistakenly, you can retrieve your coins back. So I know that's kind of been the challenge with Bitcoin is it's easy to lose and hard to kind of get back, so to speak.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's why it is so incredibly important for you to do business with a cryptocurrency company that you trust. And so in the United States, I really recommend Coinbase. I know we're not available in all countries and continents yet, but in every continent, there's a trusted cryptocurrency exchange. And I feel like that's the biggest way that you can protect yourself and your wealth, is by just making sure that you know who you're getting into business with. I would avoid working with companies. You can tell, like, if they just have like a very poor website where you can tell like it's not built out, they don't have, like, you can tell that it's just not professional looking. Don't give them your money. Like, that is a good way to avoid scams. I also would do a lot of research to see if it's been in the news about any sort of hacks or any sort of scams as well. And I think that the last thing that I would say is to just kind of, it don't, if it looks too good to be true as far as an exchange, it may be. And so ask someone who you trust. You can feel free to always reach out to me. I'm on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook, you name it. So definitely feel free. And I think that it's very important, especially since we're so early, to make sure that you're doing business somewhere safe. In a similar way to where you wouldn't just sign up with any online bank, just some random one with a bad website, bad customer service. You shouldn't sign up with a cryptocurrency exchange that doesn't meet your standards.
Yeah. And is Coinbase available in Nigeria now?
Not at this time, but that is something that we're working on.
Yeah, we were doing Bitcoin back in 17,
Nice.
and it was a challenge. Like, we're having to do VPNs and stuff because we were in Nigeria, so we had to do a lot of VPNs. But so that'd be awesome if you guys are working on making it available in Nigeria. There's a lot of people in Nigeria with Bitcoin. I mean, they were actually on Bitcoin before a lot of the Western was. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's something we talked a lot about in my master's program, and just about, like, I truly believe that there's going to be so much innovation that comes out of Africa, so many builders who build just tremendous things, because there is just such an appetite for new technology like this. So I'm really excited by that.
Awesome. Good job.
Anyone else in the room have a question? I think we should give someone, Trey's about to fall back here. Anyone else has a question? I'm sure you guys are itching. You guys had questions in the chat room, so here's your chance. You have to unmute yourself. Okay, Minnie, go ahead.
Hi, Trey.
Hi.
Okay, storing your asset on blockchain or Bitcoin, to be more specific, and trading. What's the major difference, and which is better from your perspective? They serve two different purposes.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as far as I think that to think about the different things you can do with your Bitcoin is you can buy it, of course, and after you buy it, you have the option. You can either just like store it and just like have it in your account, similar to if you get paid or when you get paid, you can just keep your money in your bank account. Similar concept with Bitcoin. You can just leave it in your account and just wait to spend it for another day. And so that's how you would accumulate the wealth that we talked about earlier. Like if you had bought Bitcoin in 2011. So that's one option. There's also the option to trade, as you mentioned. And so what trading is all about, and it kind of just goes back to what we were discussing earlier about those alternative coins or altcoins, is you can trade your Bitcoin for a different type of cryptocurrency. So let's say that you have some Bitcoin, but you're really interested in another cryptocurrency. Let's say that you want to get into Litecoin, which is another popular one. So you can trade your Bitcoin for Litecoin. And the way I would think about it is that like if you own some gold and you wanted to trade it for silver, there's different platforms where you could trade your gold for silver. In a similar way, you can use these cryptocurrency exchanges to convert your Bitcoin to another cryptocurrency.
Awesome, thank you. Second question: what's the place of security in blockchain? A lot of people say it's very secured, but I just got to learn from the previous question that when you get to lose your key, it's not that very easy to recover. And I think last month someone reached out to me and like, hey, I missed this. Can you help me recover? And I was completely lost. So
Yeah, so I think that the easiest way to think about this is, so with all of like your bank accounts, you have a password, right? So with cryptocurrency, you have a special type of password they call the private key. And so that key is what controls the access to your funds. And so if you lose that private key, then or I guess let me put that in a different way. Anyone who holds your private key, they have the ability to send your funds. And so just like you want to protect your bank password, you want to protect your private key. And I think that overall, I think that the one thing I want to kind of press on here is that you have the ability to just store your cryptocurrency with a cryptocurrency exchange that you trust, like Coinbase. And so if you do that, then Coinbase will secure your private keys for you. And we have insurance and everything like that. And so then you don't have to worry about that security aspect. And you just have to make sure to have a strong password for your Coinbase account or for whatever account for your cryptocurrency exchange. But yeah, well, I know that we're right at time here, but I just wanted to kind of thank you all for taking some time out of your Saturday to listen to me. If there's any follow-up questions, please feel free to send them along to me. I'll be more than happy to help out, and feel free to connect with me anywhere on social media or on WhatsApp or anything like that. I would love to stay connected.
Okay, I don't know if I can speak now.
I have to run, unfortunately, but I would love if you can send me your question, either if you can send it to Uko or Niles, and I can answer your question right after that. But unfortunately, I just have to go.
All right, guys. So you can stay on for a minute. Trey, you can go ahead and drop. I know you said you had a hard stop. That's fine. So guys, just stay on a call for maybe a couple more minutes, and then we'll grab some questions and then put them together and send it over to Trey, and I'm sure he'll answer it. And Trey, I might add you into our WhatsApp group if you don't mind.
Yeah.
At least so you can keep an ear in there too. But thank you so much for doing this for us. I'm sure questions are going to be coming. I had some questions about MLM and your opinion in that. I had some questions around who you actually invest in, because I know you said you paid for your wedding ring using Coinbase. And so I had some questions around how we can, also figure out a way to participate in this emerging technology. And so I'm sure we can put those questions together and send them out to you. Thank you so much once again.
Absolutely. Thank you again so much for
Thanks,
having me,
Trey.
and I can't wait to keep the conversation going.
Okay, thanks. Goodbye.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
All right,
So,
Samuel?
Hear me?
Hey, Sam, I can hear you now. I know you had a question, but Trey had to drop. What was the question that you had? If you don't mind, we can talk about it, or perhaps we can jot down it, and then if we don't know the answer to them, what was the question? What do you think about the presentation?
Yeah, it was a very awesome one. I really got to, I mean, sitting back to listen to his presentation, what he had to say, and the questions that came in with the response that came regarding the question. They were quite elaborating, and I could get a whole lot from it. Though the question I wanted asking was, I don't know if maybe at some point I missed the conversation because some call entered my phone, so I don't know if I actually missed what I want to ask now. He talked a lot about security because to me, I think the major problem of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency generally has actually been security. Security in sense that we trust Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin has actually made the name, but to some extent, it's expensive for to some level kind of persons to afford. So, but we have other cryptocurrencies. I don't know, just like we could actually check the security level of certain products you can get in the market. Is there any way we could actually check the security level of these other forms of cryptocurrency? For example, now, okay, we trust the Ethereum, we trust the Bitcoin, we trust the LTC, the USDC. Those are currencies that we actually, okay, we actually know them and they have actually lasted taste of time. But what about these other currencies probably that are just coming up? Is there any means at which we could actually check the identity? Now, because he said he's a project manager, and from my experience, I've seen so many people that are project managers and have actually been project managers for so many projects. So now they know which of these projects is the scam project, because as it is now, there are so many currencies in the market, and 90% of those projects are actually scam projects. They will come up and bring out the white paper, and they would actually go into it, try to pick one or two coins because of what Bitcoin has done over time. So we all feel we could actually start with what we can afford with any of these currencies, but at the long run, realize that they fold up and they just go away. They actually scam projects. So I wanted to ask him if there is any platform at which we could actually check the authenticity of most of these projects when they come out, because that's what they actually call this entire. Once the currency is released into the market, it's tagged the name project. It's a project. So I would want to know if there is any platform where we can actually check if this project is real or if this project is not real. So at least it could actually help guide and we can know which better to invest in. Personally, I cannot afford even one Bitcoin, but I would want to do cryptocurrency. So I would want to know which of these currencies are actually a true kind of currency, not the scam project. So I don't know if there's any way I can get heads up on that.
wow. Wow, that's a great question.
That's an
So,
excellent question. I agree with you. That's an
yeah,
excellent question. Go ahead, Uko.
that's what I was say that that's an excellent question because I have the same I share in his thought. I wish Trey had more time. I would have loved to know my audio coming out well or my breaking?
No, we hear you well.
Okay, so I'm interested because I've never invested in any cryptocurrency, and after this presentation, I would love to. So I'm also interested in knowing, are there pointers, are there things we need to watch out for in order to know how strong or authentic a particular project is. So I'm thinking, I don't know, Niles is on the security, is a security expert. If she can share her own perspective as far as security is concerned, and say
Yeah,
something as a security person.
yeah. So I'm not lie to you. I do not know a way that we can actually verify that any of these projects are valid or not. I don't know of any platforms as such. That's something that I think he working at Coinbase, they have a way to validate that. And I think this is one excellent question that we can defer back to him to help us understand, hey, are there any platforms that anyone can, go to go and check and see, is this new project, is it valid or not? So I think that's an excellent question to defer back to Trey.
Okay, I don't know. I would still want to ask another question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, talking about Bitcoin, it has lasted a taste of time, and that's why it's actually very expensive, or let's say the most relevant in the market. But he said something. China is trying to build their own cryptocurrency,
Right.
on digital money.
Right.
Probably when they finish, other countries too actually want to do that. And now, this is there a possibility that this will actually drop down the interest in Bitcoin? Why I'm saying that is this. For example, now in Nigeria, yeah, Ethereum is very much accepted in the Chinese world. If you want to buy things online in the Chinese world, yes, Ethereum is accepted. So now, if it's also it's a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I forgot about it's Ethereum. Sorry.
Ethereum.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so if, for example, now China brings out their own currency, and that's their own means of exchange, definitely, if I need to purchase something from China, I would definitely have to make use of their own currency, their own digital currency, or maybe from US, I'll have to make use of US digital currency. Now, what I want to know is there any possibility that if you have Bitcoin today, when these other countries begin to generate their own digital money, it's going to affect the Bitcoin? Or is there a possibility also that Bitcoin will be a universal currency where, notwithstanding where you're trading with, Bitcoin could also be used as a form of exchange? I could use my Bitcoin to buy something from US, despite the fact that they have their own digital currency. I could use it to buy from China, despite the fact that they have their own digital currency.
Okay, so actually, my husband is here, Mark is here, and Uko, he has some experience in Bitcoin. He has done some trading, and so I think he can probably address some of the questions that Sam is asking.
Yeah. So, good evening, Sam. So, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. So yeah, in the early days of Bitcoin, and even actually as late as 2017, 2018, in those areas, a lot of countries tried to prohibit Bitcoin to the extent that they even tried to make it to say that it was illegal to use in their country. However, the challenge with Bitcoin is that it is a decentralized, or like, what do you call it? The platforms. It's a decentralized currency, so it's very hard for these countries to try to regulate them. So your question was that, is there any way that China would come in and create their own coin? In the early days, China was one of the people who tried to ban and stop Bitcoin from even coming into fruition. And when they saw that it started taking off, they actually did come out with their own currencies. However, there's no way to really stop that exchange of users, of individuals being able to exchange Bitcoin amongst one another. So the idea of a country being able to to proprietarize or to make it proprietary to their own country, it's very difficult. And kind of like Trey was saying, is Bitcoin is kind of the basis that a lot of these coins hold their value against. So if you're going like on the Coinbase or onto these different exchanges and you have altcoins, it's going to be how much of this altcoin in comparison to a Bitcoin? How much, if you traded, how much of this altcoin would it be compared to a Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is kind of that initial foundation that your coin is going to be held against. It's almost like how much is my Nigerian naira versus to the US dollar, or how much is the pound versus the US dollar. It's kind of that standpoint or that bar. I don't really foresee a situation because a lot of countries have tried to block Bitcoin from being used in their country. And in the very end, they just all had to concede and just say, you know what, this isn't going away. So let's find a way to play within this realm. And so like China and some other countries have just figured out that we cannot stop Bitcoin. We cannot stop people from using it. Let's just adopt cryptocurrencies and maybe come out with our own and encourage our citizens to use our own currency. But it doesn't stop them from using Bitcoin. And a lot of people have tried, even here in the US, they've tried to stop the use of Bitcoin, and they realize they can. And now banks are even getting involved in creating their own currency, their own cryptocurrencies, where just 2 years ago, banks are saying cryptocurrency is illegal. And that, you know, if you're caught doing it, there could be hefty fines. Now all banks are coming out with their own cryptocurrency. So I don't know if that kind of answers
The other question he asked was about universal coin. Will they ever be like a coin where it's like a universal coin?
Well, that's what Bitcoin is.
Okay.
Bitcoin is that universal coin. Bitcoin is that coin that can be used anywhere. You know, at one point, Tanzania, was it Tanzania or Argentina? One of those economies had completely crashed, and Bitcoin was what they were kind of using to exchange and exchange for goods and services, was the use of Bitcoin, because the value of their currency had completely crashed. And so Bitcoin is kind of that universal coin. And there are Ethereum, like you talked about. Ethereum has been gaining value over the years. And you see of all these different kind of coins. I know Trey said that there's thousands of coins. There's literally hundreds of thousands of coins. And there are a lot of them that are scams. A lot of them, you know, look promising, and they have wonderful websites, and you'll be confused and think that they're legitimate. And once they get enough people to buy in to the ICO, the initial coin offering, then they disappear overnight. And so that is a challenge. There's not that I've known of. There are some websites that will tell you, you know, the viability of a coin and how legitimate, and they'll give you the background of the founders, so that you can do your research and say, well, these people, this guy worked for Apple, this guy worked for the company. So based on that, this is probably a legitimate company because these are the backers behind it. And I can trust, or I can have a level of trust to put my money into this country, into this ICO versus, you know, others. But we've invested a lot into ICOs and lost a lot because companies disappear overnight. So there's not really any like stock market where you can know, okay, if it hits the stock market, then it's a legitimate company. And even the stock market, you know, companies disappear overnight. I don't know if you guys heard about the company that just duped GM, General Motors, or Ford for you know, millions of dollars because they had a promising electric truck, you know, and they Ford went in with them thinking that they'd be able to compete with Tesla because this company had this electric truck. And so they duped Ford out of you know, billions of dollars. So that's a Fortune 100 company that's being duped. So it's very hard to, you know, there's not any centralized place that I know of that I Trey can attest better, that, you know, of a place where you can go and say, okay, the coins that are on here are legitimate coins. It's just too early. Cryptocurrency is just too early, and it hasn't really built up to find those metrics to be able to determine whether a coin is legitimate or not.
That was a great response to his question. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
No, we can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to ask, because I think a part of this question was how either Bitcoin would ever lose its value in the future. Ask that question, and Trey also try to provide answers that what drives the value of the asset of Bitcoin is actually demand and supply. And I feel that as other currency becomes adopted, becomes useful, I'm sure that in future is either Bitcoin, the rate of the way the value is appreciating would either slow down or either down, as more and more coin begins to flood the market and are acceptable. I remember Trey mentioned that there's stable coin, which is more like a digital version of the local currency, like in the US, that's having a dollar in a digital currency. And I'm sure once such is out and widely spread or adopted, I'm sure the value of Bitcoin itself will either as far as the value is concerned, demand and more accessibility as I'm sure that is coming down. I just wanted to add that because I did ask Trey that question and I heard his response. But I'm particularly concerned because I feel there's still a whole lot of questions that will come up. So I don't know if now can you work out something if Trey can come on the group so that he could respond to some of these questions directly.
Sounds good. I'll do that.
Guys, if you have any other question, I'm sure. Sorry, did you say Mike? I didn't get his name. Your husband's name, Mark.
Mark.
Okay, Mark.
Mark. Yeah.
Mark. Okay, Mark. I just want to say you have a background, you have an understanding about cryptocurrency. So, I just wanted to tell members of the audience that if you have a question, even though Trey is not here, I'm sure Mark could do justice to your question. And some of the questions that you feel that Mark might not be able to attend to, we could try and see how we can get Trey on the group so he could attend to some of these questions. So please go ahead and ask your questions.
I'm not sure if they have any more questions. Does anyone else have a
Hello,
question?
everyone.
Kingsley, Humble. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Humble is saying something.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. We can hear you, Humble. Welcome.
Definitely for me today, I'm not able to
Humble,
make sense of.
We can hear you, Humble. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk. We can hear you.
I'm not able to make sense of anything. All I've been listening to comes and goes what somebody's saying. So I just make a request. If it's possible to for me to ask questions after listening to the recorded version, the way I can do that, because I'm not able to really make sense today. The audio has been very bad on my own part.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. Niles is going to make sure the link to the video recording is available, so we put it on the group so that the recording, and after watching the recording, they could go ahead and ask a question. I'm pretty sure there'll be lots of questions. I still have questions I would have loved Trey to attempt because Mark is here too. So one of the questions on my mind has to do with liquidity because liquidity because when I did about not really research, but
Hey, Uko, hold on a second. I think I'm gonna go ahead and start recording, okay?
Okay, so that we can just flow. All right.